hopeful that the discussions that Secretary Kerry had with Foreign Minister Lavrov, as well as some of the other players in this, can yield a concrete result.
When we see that the U.S. really wants stability in our region and will stop threatening and aiming to attack and stop supplying weapons to terrorists, then we will consider the process can be brought to the final stage and it will become real and acceptable to Syria.
President Putin in this op-ed in the New York Times.
Well, these are the fruits of a completely incompetent, epically incompetent foreign policy, diplomacy by Obama. Here is the president of the greatest democracy on earth being lectured, insultingly really, in an American newspaper about human rights, about international law, about the protection of the elderly and children in wartime. I mean, the chutzpah of writing that by a KGB thug whose last adventure in the world was to invade Georgia, detach two of its provinces and declare them independent, and who for the last decade has been supplying Assad, whom we are essentially calling a war criminal, with huge amounts of weaponry, including the elements of poison gas. I mean, what we're seeing here is Putin so confident of himself after Obama had to acquiesce to this face-saving negotiation that he could actually engage in this. It's an index of how Obama has been played and continues to be right now in Geneva.
But the fact is that Russia offers a stark contrast that demonstrates why America is exceptional. Unlike Russia, the United States stands up for democratic values and human rights in our own country and around the world.
I look at this and I can't believe that this is taking place. To be lectured to by Putin as we were this morning, it just it's you know, I can just hear Reagan rolling over in his grave.
Meanwhile, this conversation is continuing with Lavrov, the foreign minister of Russia, and John Kerry in Geneva. This is Senator John McCain's tweet about that, saying Lavrov again refuses to acknowledge Assad's responsibility for chemical weapons attacks. That's progress. Syria. Then we heard today from the head of the rebel group, General Idris. Take a listen to what he said about a call with Secretary Kerry.
And he told me if they come to the conclusion that they are wasting time, the threat of strikes is still on the table, and that will be an opportunity if they are lying to do the strikes against the regime in Damascus. We are preparing our fighters, preparing ourselves for new offensive in all fronts in Syria.
So General Idris saying Kerry told him basically we're going to check this out, but these strikes may still happen.
Look, one of the commanders of the army that Idris commands, the Free Syrian Army, said the revolution is dead, it was sold. And what he meant is that the people all assumed until now that Assad would go, that he'd be gone, and right now everybody understands that what the Russians have succeeded in doing is to give Assad a second lease on life, a kind of legitimacy and recognition he didn't have. If I could just add one word on why it is about Obama. A month ago, Assad was a war criminal and Putin was a pariah for covering in the UN on the poison gas attack. And because of how flummoxed our president is, all the gaps, in which Putin steps in, he's now, instead of a pariah, he's a statesman, he's a partner in peace, and he's in a position where he can lecture the United States of America.
Russia, I indicated, is a geopolitical foe. Russia does continue to battle us in the UN time and time again. I have clear eyes on this. I'm not going to wear rose-colored glasses when it comes to Russia or Mr. Putin, and I'm certainly not going to say to him, I'll give him more flexibility after the election. After the election, he'll get more backbone.
A lot of discussions going on about how to deal with the CR and the issue of Obamacare. And so we're continuing to work with our members. I'm well aware of the deadlines. So are my colleagues. So we're working with our colleagues to work our way through these issues. I think there's a way to get there.
As we all know, the Speaker has a problem, how to get the government funded. All these things they're trying to do on the Obamacare is just a waste of their time.
Charles, is there a way out? There are a number of proposals to delay Obamacare for a year, for example, a compromise, as the president has delayed the mandate for businesses, delay the individual mandate for a year, and satisfy some of these conservatives who are pushing for defunding Obamacare.
It's not going to happen. If there were any impetus for it to happen, it would come from the unions, who are intensely unhappy about the fact that employers have gotten a postponement for a year, and workers are really getting screwed on this. They're going to lose their benefits. The unions are going to lose members because they're going to dissipate the advantage of being in a union. They're very unhappy, but it's not going to come from a small number, a relatively small number of conservative Republicans in the House. You cannot govern from one part of one half of the Congress. The law passed. And yes, they were elected to go and defeat Obamacare, but they're 2 years late.
So what's the out?
The only out is for these people to realize that they're in a suicide caucus. The way to win this thing is to let it go into effect, which it will, because Obama controls the veto. Let it fall apart on its own as it is. Let all the contradictions be exposed. Let unions and Democrats oppose it. Win the election next year, and then attack it, and that might work.
This has been a Sunfish production.